today we offer to your attention expert discussion Russian disinformation in Moldova's parliamentary elections, lessons for Ukraine. On September 28th, as you know, Moldova held parliamentary elections, and during the electoral campaign, Russia extended an attractive information influence on the electoral campaign in Moldova. So today I propose to discuss the main features and the main outcomes of the Russian disinformation attempts in regard of parliamentary elections in Moldova, and the key issues which will be discussed today are the following. What key narratives did Russia propaganda spread in Moldova during the electoral campaign? Social media as Russia's tool of influence on voter behavior, and I think we will focus mainly on Telegram and TikTok within a campaign in Moldova. And also I think that we may predict in some way what the strategy of Moscow will be in regard to the further developments in Moldova, and indicate main vulnerabilities that Moscow will use against Moldova in their upcoming future. To start our discussion, I'd like to make a short presentation of our policy paper, which our group, Hybrid Warfare Analytical Group, prepared before the presidential elections, in which we focused on key narratives and key actors, pro-Russian actors who spread pro-Russian narratives within Moldova's information dimension. So now I will go forward, and here is the main narratives which we indicated. At first, I'd like to mention some of them. The main narrative from our point of view is the threat of war as a result of the continuation of current government policy, and especially within pro-European course. Then the next narrative is the syndrome of stolen elections. And also pro-Russian actors spread many narratives in regard the so-called Georgian model of the relations with European Union. The next narrative is spread of conspiracy theories that discredit the current government of Moldova, and the final narrative on which we focus is the division of society into the patriots and the supporters of the West.
We found a couple of interesting conspiracy theories that were spread by Russia via their own channels, propaganda and disinformation channels, and one of these is this case that is called the Anti-Trump Plan. So who was the author of it? Who has become the author of it? The pro-Kremlin former Ukrainian TV host Diana Panchenko. Before the full-scale invasion, she was one of the leading faces of Medvedchuk's TV channels of the pool. And after 2022, she came to Russia on September 11, 2025. In her Telegram channel, she published an announcement to Donald Trump, where she was telling in that video announcement that France and Great Britain, together with Moldova and Ukraine, are preparing a plan of escalation in the Transnistrian region. That allegedly, in the beginning of June, Moldova and France signed a sort of document between the armed forces HQs of these countries, and there was a confidential part where they wanted to prepare provocations against Tiraspol. And after successful re-election, now Maya Sandu will be ready to sanction the military operation against Tiraspol, where they will also engage Ukrainian armed forces. So that was what she's telling. So she was the single popularizer of the theory, Diana Panchenko herself. For a couple of times, she was coming to various informational platforms where she was trying to push that narrative. But what's interesting, even the pro-Kremlin TG channels were not so active to disseminate this theory, but just indirectly mentioning it somewhere implicitly. Okay. when they realized that this attempt to spread this theory failed, Russian Federation used another thing. On September 22nd, some of the TG channels presented news saying that their source was the Russian intelligence, saying that NATO was preparing an operation to occupy Transnistrian territories. And like this scenario was already tested during the NATO training in Romania. So with this 100% falsified elections, then we'll have citizens coming to the streets, and Sandu will have only one way to act, so asking help from the neighbors, NATO countries, I mean. So that was the targeted campaign, the deliberate one. On 23rd September, next day, the messages with these links to intelligence has become the most popular in pro-Kremlin TG channels. And let's say, to prepare the plan B, so the External Intelligence Service said that the other possible date of that operation on Transnistrian occupation, apart from the next day of the election, like this can be November 30th, when we'll have elections in the Transnistria. So this informational operation, again, wasn't successful, we can say, because there was no significant impact with these conspiracy theories. They just failed eventually.
The other actors, very active actors who want to influence the election in the Republic of Moldova, it was Gagauzian region. Also in this region, and all narratives was against Chisinau and using the force against the Gagauzian some nation of Gagauzian or people from Gagauzian. Also, the other narratives was like happens in Ukraine before the total invasion in 2020. It was using the Moldovan Orthodox Church that it's under the Kremlin Patriarchy, it's Moscow Patriarchy. We has a lot of, today my colleagues published on documents from the National Police. In that elections was documented more than 20 20 popes who are working in this patriarchy, who are now are under processing that was implicated in the election campaign. Of course, the war was a central theme of this campaign. In this point of view, you describe the TikTok activity. Unfortunately, we have some kind of TikTok political party now in the election. We're waiting for validating or not validating the mandates. It's mean democracy at home. It's this party, small party, but this party comes to parliament and have more than 5% of votes.
Lessons from Ukraine are important for Moldova, and lessons from Moldova are important for Ukraine and other state partners. As you are well aware, in 2025 the Republic of Moldova faced one of the most complex and industrialized campaigns of foreign interference in its modern history. What we have seen is no longer a collection of isolated disinformation episodes, but a fully coordinated ecosystem of manipulation, financed, designed, and maintained by structures linked to the Russian secret services. We have seen a true war launched against our diaspora. This should be of concern also for Ukraine, because of the long war, over 11 years of war, we have seen continuing increase in the number of members of the Ukrainian diaspora abroad. So I think Ukrainian state should take some measures to better protect the information space of the Ukrainian diaspora.
On Open Minds, we also observed how Russian informational operations, how these were trying to meddle with Moldova's elections. And we started studying Telegram. You know, in Moldova, Telegram is not the key source of information compared to Ukraine. But Telegram for us, well, it gives us an understanding, at least. Like, we took it as a sandbox, a perfect Petri cup, where Russian info operations can be spread without limitations, without moderation, for these narratives to be used that they want to, and with no resistance to be met at that time. So, when we analyzed the informational environment in the Moldovan Telegram, when we took all the channels, accumulated all the channels which gravitate towards these topics, politics-related topics, at least 32% of all Moldovan TG channels reposted pro-Kremlin sources more than 10 times. Yeah. Meaning that, in fact, they were spreading Russian narratives directly, explicitly, and some share was doing that from 1 to 10 times, not that often, but still, even without open reposts, they were still transferring Russian messages directly to audiences. But when we paid attention to the following, when we saw that the majority of these pro-Russian TG channels have open comments section, we realized that this was another type of info operation, another type of impact that the previous speaker mentioned. So, use of bots, yes, use of bots to imitate the social opinion, to imitate the social consensus. In fact, the key task of that of this operation to legitimize Russian narratives, pro-Russian narratives, anti-European, and make these visible. Like this is something that is shared by the audience locally.
I'm not sure that Moldova can teach lessons to Ukraine, but together we can work and identify our vulnerabilities to become stronger. I'll try to give you a little broader perspective than just AI and ChatGPT, because it's not my field. What I would like really to emphasize is that what we learn from these elections, parliamentary election in the Republic of Moldova, is that all strategies for combating disinformation, misinformation, and hybrid warfare, they are not longer effective. And you know that in Ukraine, and these elections in Moldova came to make it again a point. So fact-checking, media literacy, they are nice, but they are not very effective if you don't have a strong legislation and legal framework which allows you to fight actually and to take measures to prevent and to punish the one who are breaking the law, who are like not respecting the laws Mikhail also mentioned. And I really think that this is the difference between current elections, parliamentary elections in the Republic of Moldova, and the previous one, the presidential elections. So what we saw now in this election, our public institutions, authorities, they were more involved. They took measures. They prevent not just part of disinformation online, but they took more measures in stopping these schemes, illegal corruption of the voters, which are operated from Moscow by Lanshor and other agents. Why I'm saying that? Because I don't believe that speaking about the information space, I don't believe that much progress or much change we can notice now comparing to 1 year ago. We still have 70% of the population who are using mostly social media. And here I'm speaking about Telegram, I'm speaking about Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. So even though people are aware in the Republic of Moldova that on social media we have a lot of fake news, most of the fake news, they still go and read news and inform themselves and comment and interact with these bots, right, and fake profiles in social media.
Quite an interesting question. That's an interesting question, truly, because this is the two-way street, basically. I know that we've been permanently observing what's happening around us, how Russians are trying to impact our neighbors. So Romania, Moldova primarily. And our friends and partners, neighboring friends and partners, are looking at our experience, yes? And they ask us to share. So I was observing the Moldovan electoral process in the middle of the observers group, Ukrainian, Moldovan, Romanian group. So from the inside, we've seen how was everything taking place. And I should note, the first observation I have is that what Russians were focused on. They focused on the following: to mobilize their voters, and they were using all possible resources for that. Propaganda, disinformation, and of course organizational steps they've taken. I was more interested in these hybrid steps that they took. And my Moldovan colleagues already mentioned this. In particular, what I talk about. The network, the churches, the popes of Moldovan Patriarchy, Moscow Patriarchy, Moldovan churches. Within 6 months, they were taken to Russia. They were brainwashed there, And all these groups, pilgrimages as they call that, yes, all these groups were talking to propagandists from Единая Россия party, intelligence services, and each of them got loans, to buy some stuff, some merch, and each got a credit card, each pope. Each priest got a credit card, which later they were using to get money when they arrived home. So this is the bribery. This is the bribery itself. It's not just the bribe given to a voter, but they shaped a pool, So when all these priests returned there, so they opened, they had their own resources already, yes? And Telegram channels even, in their small parishes, with small audiences, but it's not the Telegram channel of the parish that's important, but the speech delivered by the priest in the church, like on Sundays, talking to his people, and if he says to vote for that, people will do that. Despite the fact that even the expenditures for defense and national security in Russian budget for 2026, they have smaller amount than for 2025. If we total all the expenditures, like with different names, so basically like pushing the image of Russia, 146.3 billion rubles. 7% more than in 2025, so they plan to have more for propaganda. 28% more than in 2021. Average monthly expenditures on state media in 2026 in Russia will reach approximately 12 billion rubles. That's a huge amount, based on the estimates of experts. And Russian propaganda machine is one of the most expensive in the world. The largest expenditure blocks federal TV channels activities and traditional media, TV, radio, press. Within Russia today, VHTRK, TASS, and the rest of these agencies. Kremlin is trying to cover the internet space. They're adapting their strategy, and in 2026 budget, they have 731 million rubles to push pro-Kremlin content in the internet. And an interesting case, some specific TV shows and formats are funded separately from the budget, like we had it last year with Vladimir Solovyov live show. This media project got even separate money from state budget, 14.1 million rubles. Ridovka, 49 million rubles additionally they got from the budget. So the strategic background of that propaganda budget increase, it's clear. So if you want to continue the war, you need to control the informational space environment. We understand this. Inside the Russian Federation, of course, beyond Russia. Propaganda activities in the states where Russia has launched its hybrid war against. Propaganda money, they will always find it, and they use it to push their narratives in various forms and various platforms. Just to draw the line. Okay, I would love to say that Russian disinformation is evolving, unfortunately. So they use new methods and tactics. The electoral campaigns prove that. In Romania and Moldova, and we observe some new trends that Ukraine has to track. We don't know today when, even tentatively, we're about to have our elections, but anyway, we have to keep fit, let's say, and track the trends that we have in this area. Keep the fingers on the pulse to know how Russia is impacting the electoral processes in European countries.